What is up, everybody? Welcome to the DFS Army YouTube channel. It is Friday. It is Halloween. I am, Ricky Bobby today. I didn't let Mike know that I was going to be throwing on a costume, so I'll give him a pass on that one. But happy to have basketball back. Happy to have Mike joining me here. Mike, thanks for jumping on with me. Looking forward to hear what you have to say about Monday's action, because there are some things that I have some questions about already. Just because I hate exhibitions and we know about them, but then we don't know about them because nobody wants to share information correctly for some of these. So, but yeah, how are you doing on this Friday?
I'm great. And you know what, Raz? I would not rather be anywhere else on Halloween besides here talking hoops with my good friend. So I am ecstatic to be here. Season starts in 3 days now. So just a couple more sleeps. So I'm super pumped. This first slate of games, like you said, there's a lot of wild cards, but I think we can talk through it. And I think there's some good opportunities that we can figure out here and have some fun stuff rolling on Monday.
Yeah, there's definitely some interesting scenarios. The big thing for me on DraftKings years ago, I guess a few years ago, we just always got stuck with all these freshmen at 3 to 4K. Like they just had no idea how to price anybody to start a slate out. That's mostly not the case anymore. Obviously, there are some guys, but when we look at things like we get a 5-star in Houston priced up at $9,200, which really annoyed me because I was looking forward to playing him right away. And then I saw his pricing and you can't place things like that. So I guess when it comes to your overall view of just the slate in general, is there anything that you're noticing right away from pricing or anything that you see?
Yeah, I mean, the obvious thing is that DraftKings still has no idea what the hell they're doing. Whether it's they're just plugging in the algorithm or they have some recent college grad just putting together the slate numbers. It's every single year in the beginning of the year, it's a disaster. And I think the industry is getting good enough where there are some really easy plays that you kind of have to make now, especially in the first week when pricing sucks. But there's too many good people around where they're going to be 90% owned. So to get an edge, it's much harder now, I think. Looking at this year, like you said, they have kind of adjusted too much. So the high majors are all overpriced. But they still don't know. They still have no idea what they're doing with these low major schools. Some of these guys are priced really, really poorly. That's where we're going to find the opportunity. And that's where we have to hope that, not too many people are looking that deep into the slate. But yeah, it makes roster construction kind of all over the place, and you have to take some chances on some of these low major players.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Now I would guess there's not as many people doing this, but there's still again people that just go out there and sort by fantasy points per game, that pop up from last year.
Yeah.
And just find some cheap guys that just stand out. Even when I do it, you get a St. John's transfer who's not really going to play that many minutes popping towards the top. But, obviously there's more people covering college basketball now. We have exhibition games for the most part are being shown more. You have more access to the information. There's one link where it actually listed a website that lists every exhibition game with a link to box scores that have them. So there's just the access to information is a little easier. Hopefully we do get a little bit more access to injury information this year. Obviously the NCAAB is pushing more towards that, but whether we get that in college basketball, I don't really know. But yeah, we obviously could talk around and just talk about the pricing over and over again, but let's just jump right into the first matchup on the slate. It's one that both intrigues me, but also it's one that I might just stay away from personally. It's like St. John's just bringing in a bunch of new guys. Like they're deeper. I think their guard rotation or starting wise could just fluctuate on a game to game basis.
Absolutely.
And like, I mean, like Bryce Hopkins, I think arguably is the most talented player on the team, but like Zuby's getting all the preseason love. I end up having some questions for about St. John's. I don't know. I guess what do you think about their and what they're going to run out there, how they're going to distribute minutes amongst the main guys, I guess.
Yeah, so I had the pleasure of watching them live at the Garden against Michigan in their exhibition game. It was a really fun game. It went to overtime. But the takeaways from the St. John's team specifically is that this backcourt, especially in the beginning of the season, is going to be a dumpster fire. Pitino has, I think, no idea what he wants to do yet. He's still waiting for a lot of these guys to prove themselves. For example, like Ian Jackson and Jason Stanton both sat the second half like 15, 16 minutes. Like they only maybe played 3 or 4 minutes in the second half. Sellers was in foul trouble the whole entire game. We saw a lot of Dylan Darling, who did look actually pretty good, but like you said, the backcourt is deep. It's 5, 6, 7 guys deep. It's going to be somebody different every other night. We know from last year, Kadari Richmond was in the doghouse for a little bit. Davon Smith was in the doghouse for a little bit. Like Pitino is not afraid to sit these guys no matter who they are. So especially in the beginning of the season, this is a situation where you definitely want to stay away from DFS-wise. So I will not be rostering anybody from the St. John's backcourt. The front court did look really, really good. Dylan Mitchell looked really, really active. Zuby was Zuby from last year. Bryce Hopkins still seems like he's still shaking off a little rust, but like you said, he's probably the most overall talented player on the team. And like St. John's went up against a pretty formidable backcourt in Michigan. They had with Mara and Morris Johnson, right? Those guys are big and really good defensively. And St. John's held their own. So like, especially DFS wise in the beginning of the season, when we see these high majors go against these low majors who maybe are not as efficient up front and get kind of killed on the boards, I always tend to look to play like bigs or centers against these low major teams. But in this particular matchup, Quinnipiac is not a team that got killed underneath last year. They finished 28th nationally per KenPom in 2-point field goal percentage defense. And, they actually did play St. John's last year, and Zuby only had 8 points against them. So like, I think their interior defense is pretty formidable. So like, even though I do want to play some big guys from St. John's, I don't know if this is the right matchup. So like you said, Raz, like this is maybe the game to totally stay away from. If you look at the Quinnipiac side, Amari Monroe is their guy. He was the conference player of the year last year. But St. John's is one of the better defenses in the entire country. Watching them play against Michigan, you can tell that, their defense isn't there yet, but the ceiling is really high. And I think they can have just as good of a defense, if not better than last year. And when they played last year, Monroe only had 4 points against St. John's. So I wouldn't want to play him in this matchup either. The one guy I will shout out that I think could be a little bit of a steal or overlooked on the Quinnipiac side is a guard named Nate Gorengamba. He's min priced at $3K. He was a pretty highly touted recruit he went to UMass last year. Didn't get too much playing time, but he was a top 150 recruit as a freshman. Transfers down to Quinnipiac. He's a sophomore now. He's a big guy. He's like 6'4", over 200 pounds. I think he's going to slide into their 2 as a starting role. Him at is he 3,500 or 3,000? I think it's a pretty legit value play here in the slate. But other than that, not too much exciting going on here from a DFS perspective.
Yeah, I tried to dig in more into Quinnipiac just to get an idea. Like, obviously they played them last year. St. John's just basically a completely different team, so it's really tough to look at that matchup. Definitely Monroe. I mean, he's the preseason MAC player of the year. So I mean, if anybody could do it, it could be him. But again, like you mentioned, he did struggle against them last year. I just don't really know what to expect out of the rest of their starting lineup, really. Sim Jones is a transfer from FIU that I think probably starts. Jaden Zimmerman is a preseason all MAC player. So maybe he's somebody that like is worth a dart throw. But in general, like I just don't really love this team. Coach Pecora actually came out and said he expects to go 9 to 10 deep early in the year. So like when you have a small school on a slate like this, and then they're coming out telling you that they're basically going to run 2 rotations, like it really ends up being something that you probably just pass on. Even if somebody might look inviting, because like he mentioned Samson Riley's a freshman, that part of their offense is getting him catch and shoot threes as being a big part of what they do. But like, is that coach speak on from a small school? I don't really know. So generally I'm kind of with you, definitely kind of avoiding Quinnipiac. And I think I have to avoid St. John's. They don't really have a true point guard on the roster, right? Or at least not expected to play minutes. Yeah. And we did see Sellers like just foul issues, but can play, decent. That game that you saw, he fouled out in 8 minutes?
It was
that exhibition game is like, it's just absolutely ridiculous. That was, a game where they had Ian Jackson off the bench. Ian Jackson started the first exhibition game, but Bryce Hopkins came off the bench. I just don't know if like Zuby has as much upside this year early on as he did last year. Dylan Mitchell's going to grab a bunch of boards. Bryce Hopkins is going to grab a bunch of boards too. Like, he's not surrounded by a bunch of guards, and like Kadari and Davon and RJ Lewis basically acting like a guard last year. So, yeah, for me, even though like Ken Palm has St. John's with a projected team total of 90, it just doesn't feel like a spot that we can be overly confident in going to, especially because like pricing, right? Like Ian Jackson, $8,600.
Yeah, like, no way.
Yeah, I don't understand. Like, there's no way he should be more than Bryce Hopkins. Like, I guess if there's anybody, maybe it's Bryce Hopkins at 8K if you think that he goes back to his original self.
Or Dylan Mitchell, if you want to pay 63.
Yeah, I've heard some people talking about Dylan Mitchell already at 6,300, and I think it's fine. Like, I think we were paying that for him last year at Cincinnati at times. I just like, is he suddenly going to turn into more offensively? Like, because he's been somewhat passive offensively on, Texas and then Cincinnati. And now he has these guys around him. Is he suddenly going to shoot a bunch more?
No, there's more mouths to feed, right?
Right. I mean, he did, but the game you went to, he did take 10 shots from the field, 17 shots in 2 exhibition games from what I'm looking at. Like, he's probably fine. Probably the one that won't hurt you as much as probably the other guys because of the price point, but maybe Sellers, like if he figures out, like stays on the floor, he's kind of the de facto point guard to start out the season, I guess, which feels gross, but I mean, he had some pretty strong games with Stanford last year, so he's in a price range where like I don't think there's a lot to choose from, overall in the low to mid 5Ks, a lot of questionable names, smaller school guys, Bodine Kapke, like, so he's probably the best option in that low to mid 5K range, but I don't know how much you're getting to that because of the fact that there are some value guys.
Yeah, it's clearly a stars and scrubs kind of build. So you might not even down the road when you're building more balanced lineup, that's usually the price point where you're looking to dart throw and find some guys. But I don't know if this is a slate that you even have to even attempt to do that.
Yeah, I mean, as the season goes on, that's the price range. The 5K is one where you can find those guys that can drop, that can get you 35. That can go 7x. I just don't know that we have it on this particular slate. He would make it your build probably unique. The problem is that like I just don't really love the 6K range all that much either.
Same.
And that's usually what you're pairing it with. So, but yeah, let's get on to, I guess, probably the most exciting game of the night, at least for me, I think. Florida, Arizona. It is one of the only 2 games, I think, on this slate that like the DK Sportsbook has lines up for. Last I looked. Florida is very interesting. Ton of obviously hype coming off the national championship. Do you believe that they can get away with playing Hulk at the 3 is what I want to know, because like I just don't know. Like that him with Condon and Chinelu, like the big lineup, and it might work in this particular matchup depending on what Arizona does. But long term, like, do you think he's somebody that's going to be able to stay out there at the 3, or are they going to start, I don't know, taking minutes away from Ruben or Hanlogton, I guess?
Yeah, I don't know. And, usually when coaches decide to go more big and at the cost of spacing, it usually doesn't work very well, especially how like the game is trending over the last few years. It's more pace and space, get more 3-pointers up. I mean, these guys could step out and shoot it, but, like Condon is better near the basket. Ruben's better near the basket. Even Hogg Hogg is pretty decent near the basket. So like spacing is going to be a little bit more of an issue for Florida than it was last year. Having 3 guards, in my opinion, that can all like kind of intertwine and switch is a little better than 2. And then also like the big question here is Boogie Fland didn't play in any of their scrimmages. And I think he's very questionable for this game. I haven't heard otherwise if he's going to play or not. I don't know if you've seen anything, Raz.
I have not seen any real updates on him.
So that's a big question here.
Like, and being no injury updates prior to it, and all of a sudden he wasn't playing. Like, I don't really know. But I feel like since we haven't heard anything major, like I would guess that he's probably going to be in there. But
okay,
I mean it's
tough.
You
don't know.
But with him being such a big name, you would have thought if there's some serious injury that popped up, like somebody would have let something out. But because it's not a small school, it's not some random guy that we just can't find any news about. But if he's out, then that kind of opens up things a bit more, and then probably creates some potential value depending on what you think Florida would end up doing.
Right.
But
if he's out, that is a ton of Xavier Lee, who's priced up, right? But he'll have to play almost the whole game. And then if he's out, I'm assuming they put Urban Klavzar in the starting lineup, I'm assuming. Or they can go the freshman CJ Ingram, AJ Brown, the guy from Ohio that they brought in is an option too. I'm assuming that Klavzar would get the start. He's priced pretty cheaply, so he'd be a pretty solid option. But yeah, that's something that we have to keep an eye out for when starters come out or news comes out on Monday. But yeah, this Florida team's going to be big. They're going to try to play fast. It's a lot more question marks than last year, where they kind of had a core backcourt coming back, and now both Flan and Lee are both new guys in town. Who knows how they're going to handle the Florida offensive system. Supposedly they look good in their secret scrimmage against Illinois, and they won without Flan. But I think the books have this as Florida as a 4-point favorite. Like I think that's a little too many points against an Arizona team who I think is going to be pretty strong this year as well. It's just a lot of question marks for me.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as you. The one guy I do really like in this game in general for him is Condon.
Same.
Big fan. Like I would have thought that he'd be their highest price guy coming in. But being cheaper than Hulk is standing out to me quite a bit. Yeah, and I don't know if I can like play Xavier Lee if Boogie Flan's out at 8,300, because like does he just deal with Jaden Bradley defense? Who there isn't a lot of guys in college basketball that I absolutely respect their defense enough to be like, all right, do I need to pay attention? Jaden Bradley's kind of one of those guys that stands out to me that I want to pay attention to. And it's not that we'd be considering playing Boogie Fland, I don't believe. I just don't think he's strong enough offensively. He's just a stud on the defensive end and energy-wise. It's the fact that, if he's out, then that's going to open up things for Klevzar, A.J. Brown, and CJ Ingram. I'm, curious to see, obviously, and whoever would get a boost into the starting lineup for him if he's out definitely becomes one of the better value-ish guys. I wouldn't say the best in general, just because I do expect the bigs to – I shouldn't say bigs, like Hulk and Condon to get up plenty of shots. You're not going to see Chinyelu put up many shots or Hanlogton when he's out there. So, it's really those guys on the wings and then whoever's at the guard position for them. I have a lot of questions on the Arizona side of things, and not in that I don't think that they're good, because I actually think they're going to be pretty good. It's just I think they're going to be deeper than they were last year by the looks of how they've run their exhibitions. And they can pretty much rival Florida's size in this matchup. One of the two exhibitions, I believe Arizona ran out Awaka and Krivas together in the starting lineup, which would fit in this particular matchup. It just depends on where they would slide Cole Pete in as well with that. I'm not really a huge fan of the guards for Arizona, at least to start out from a fantasy perspective. But, Krivas, super interesting to me at 6,200 if he starts. Obviously, foul issues could come into play. Curious to see what the roles are for the freshmen and Pete, Burries, and Aristode. I don't even know if I knew how to pronounce his last name. But and then a 3K guy down at the bottom, Karchennikov. Yeah. He's somebody that's intrigued a little bit, but they have so many forwards. I don't know if I can get to him in more than a dart in, the $12 or something. But he's somebody that intrigues me a little bit.
He's going to play. He's probably going to play 20 minutes.
Yeah, if you guarantee me 20 to 25 minutes at the 3K, I think he's somebody that you just have to include in your rotation of value plays in building out your lineup. Yeah. He played 23 minutes in the first exhibition and 17 in the second. Second one was a blowout where it didn't.
Yeah. They played probably 15 guys that game.
Yeah, he played 17 minutes and scored 17 points. But, I mean, the one thing that I wasn't sure about that first one when he played 23 minutes is Awaka didn't play in that one either. So, and that's kind of my question is how they're going to rotate, amongst those guys if everybody's out there playing. But I guess, how do you see this team breaking out the minutes just at the forward position, I guess? They have talented dudes, especially the freshmen. They're all really talented. So I'm just trying to figure out how they're going to break down their rotation. And that's why it's a tough team for me to get to on this slate, just because it feels like one where I have to play the wait and see game.
Yeah, it's tough because, like you said, they're so deep, right? And Tommy Lloyd, I don't think is afraid of playing two bigs, right? We've seen it, when he first moved over there. They had a bunch of different two big lineups, and they played the high-low, and all the bigs ran in transition. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Awaka and Krivas play alongside each other. I'm with you. I think Krivas is a great play. I think I'd rather play him than Dylan Mitchell if you're looking for that low 6K range type of play. But like you said, he's going up against a huge front court, and foul trouble is definitely a risk. But if he stays on the court for close to 30 minutes, I mean, he's a fantasy point per minute monster, right? I think in their first scrimmage, he put up some pretty big numbers. And actually, I like playing Jaden Bradley too. I think he's a guy that's going to have to play 35 minutes for them. They really don't have a backup ball handler, right? Burries is more of a scorer. Aristote's more of a scorer. Pete does not look like a freshman. He looks like a 28-year-old man with the size of him. So he's somebody who's going to be playing down low. And so is Karchenkov, right? He's like 6'8", 6'9", can step out. He's a little versatile, but he's a big too. So like this team is super deep. Not the greatest when you think about that for fantasy purposes, but I think Jaden Bradley is going to be relied on heavily early for this team, especially as the freshmen start to develop into their roles. I like Krivas. I probably more of a GBP play than like my core main team, just because it comes with a little more risks. And then also there is a chance that him and Awaka split time and Tommy Lloyd doesn't play the two big lineup. And then the third guy I like on them is we already talked about it, was the freshman Karchenkov at min price here. If you're looking for some value in a GPP, he has some upside.
Yeah, that first exhibition game, like Krivas went for 11 points and 17 boards.
Yeah.
Played 32 minutes in it, did fall out. But yeah, I mean, if he's out there, he's got a chance to rack up some things. Obviously, like the one nice thing for him to potentially avoid foul trouble could be the fact that like Chinelu is not really an offensive threat. We did see him kind of explode a little bit offensively in their run to the championship, but that was, kind of high energy plays and putbacks and that sort of thing. But also there's a chance for some fouls, like if he gets lazy for help, because this Florida team isn't going to shoot the three as well as last year's Florida team. Their guards more are guys that want to attack a little bit more.
Right.
So there's some foul issues potentially there, but yeah, he feels like the best play for me on Arizona. Like I don't mind Jaden Bradley, but I just don't know if I want to pay that price for him right away. Kind of want to see what his new role is. I mean, it's not really a new role. It's just see if there's an increase in, I guess, his offensive usage, which there's a lot to go around, without Caleb Love. But there's just a lot of moving pieces. The guy that actually led them in shots in the first exhibition game, the one that I think mattered a little bit more than the second one, is Del Orso, which blew my mind right away. Took 12 shots in 27 minutes, 7 of them from 3. I just don't think I can get there with Del Orso. I'd rather try to take a play with one of the freshmen and hope for upside, I guess, just because their freshmen are, so talented overall. But it's a game that, like, there's plenty of points projected, right? Like,
someone's going to go off. Yeah, someone's
79 for Arizona, Florida at 84 points. Like there's a chance for 165 point game. So there will be fantasy points. It's just tough to get to again because obviously some of the pricing is aggressive again, which you're gonna think that throughout the slate as you look at it. As we dig in more. But next matchup, Boston College, Florida Atlantic. Very interesting here for me, digging into Boston College. Hand came out and said that he believes that Boston College is a top 5 team in the ACC.
Oh, my God.
I know that you just did a ACC breakdown show with the guys over at Run Pure. So I'm going to pass Boston College to you right away before I give some thoughts and get, I guess, what you think of BC. And I don't know if you heard that Hand or read that Hand said that.
I didn't.
Because it's a team that outside of Hand, like, who's going to score the basketball for me in the ACC in a matchup? FAU isn't an atrocious matchup by any means, but yeah, let me know what you think on Boston College.
Yeah, I think that is something you say as a captain when when you get interviewed by the media, just to instill some confidence in the rest of the team. But yes, I did do the ACC breakdown last night with the RPS guys, and I think we all were in consensus that Boston College is the worst team in the ACC. It's probably going to finish 18th. Like you said, this is Don Hand and then maybe a little Chase Forte, the transfers from South Dakota, and then that's it. Their next best player is Aiden Shaw, who is like a super role player from Missouri. I think he averaged like 2 points per game last year. This is just not a high major roster. So, I do think Don Hand's usage rate is going to be over 30. I think the transfer Chase Forte is going to have the ball in his hands and take a lot of shots as well. He put up good numbers at South Dakota, but I was diving a little deeper into him, and you realize that South Dakota played 17 of their games last year were against Q4 opponents. They played 3 high major teams, and out of those 3, in 2 of those games, he scored 8 points and 5 points. So his when he faced higher, stiffer competition, he didn't really perform well. So that tends to make me believe that he's a little questionable moving up in competition to ACC. There's just not much to get excited for, even from a fantasy perspective, outside of Don Hand for this fantasy wise and for this slate. And it's hard to get there because Don Hand's 9,400. He's in the same price range as Debanza and Yaxel. So I'd rather play those 2 guys than him. So I'm staying away from BC. So yeah, that is a bold statement coming from Don Hand.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. And then I had to it made me actually look into the roster more and see if I was missing something. And I'm not really. The one thing that stands out to me, and it's something that I'm going to go down with the ship on, is Jaden Hastings. If he can stay on the court, can be a pretty big point per minute big for them. The problem is he averages nearly 7 fouls per 40. So that's the big question mark. But when this slate first dropped, I saw his price at 4,900 before I dug into other teams. And I thought he was somebody that I would just end up super overweight on and live with the outcome. I'm still going to be overweight on him, but it's a dangerous outcome. One guy that could be intriguing for, I guess, future slates, Asamoah transferring over from Baylor, a former top 50-ish recruit. If they need somebody to provide a little bit more, to give Hand a little bit extra, I think he's somebody that might be able to provide that from a wing spot. Because I'm not really going to rely on Fred Payne, and Aiden Shaw just not going to do anything. Bowden Kapke coming over from Butler, his minutes just aren't going to look all that great. I mean, he's probably better offensively than Aiden Shaw, but there's no defense from him at all.
He's going to play when Hastings gets in foul trouble.
Which, I mean,
he played 13 minutes in their UConn scrimmage, didn't he? But he had 4 fouls.
I mean, Hastings he's frustrating. I mean, that UConn scrimmage, Kapke played 27 minutes. Basically, I mean, they're exact. They combined for 40 minutes. They're never going to be on the floor together. But I mean, Hand's going to take all the shots. Payne took plenty of shots in that scrimmage, so maybe, but he just doesn't feel like somebody that's going to do enough peripherally, even though he's at that price point where there isn't a lot to choose from. But I just don't think we need to get to BC other than me being stubborn and going to Hastings, just because, if they catch lightning in the bottle and he plays 25 minutes, I think he has a shot to, go 5 to 6x probably in this spot. So, I mean, it's not the best thing to feel, best stance to take, but I think it's there. FAU is one that is both really interesting, and it's going to have a player that's going to drive us nuts. The number one value play from what I'm getting from everybody else across is going to be Cannon Carlisle, from what I've read in other places. And he looked like he was going to be a stud 2 years ago at Stanford. And then he decided to transfer to Indiana, where I don't know if he could just never get out of a doghouse, or he just wasn't as good as everybody thought he was. but now he finds himself at FAU. And I expect him to obviously get up plenty of shots. He took 14 in their scrimmage just the other day. Played 26 minutes. Was the primary ball handler in that game, but that's because Moretti tweaked an ankle in practice and missed the game. I didn't look today for any updates. When I put together some of my notes, it was yesterday, and like his status for Monday is unknown. Hopefully get an update, but just because Moretti at that price seems pretty inviting too, and what he showed on a permanent basis previously. But he's one that his minutes fluctuated last year too, where he thought he was in a good spot, even coming off the bench, and he just suddenly only played 10 or 12. But FAU is just full of transfers, right? Which, I mean, that's the name of the game now. But Elohim, a transfer from USC. Devin Williams, a big man transfer from UCLA. They brought in Josiah Parker, who's the highest FAA recruit ever for that program. So there are some names. I don't know what to think with this team, just because, like, if Moretti plays, that kind of takes Devin Vanderpool down a little bit. He had a huge game in the exhibition, but I assume he's not going to start if Moretti's out there. They have a lot of question marks on the interior. Like, Devin Williams didn't really showcase a whole lot with UCLA. And then in the exhibition game, he played 11 minutes because he picked up 4 fouls. Did score 9 points in those 11 minutes, but like, if he can't stay out there, I mean, matchup between Devin Williams and Jaden Hastings on the interior, who gets the 15 minutes first? Like, it's going to be a legitimate question that we're going to have to ask ourselves. But obviously not the same type of FAU squad that we're used to over the last few years, but I do still think there's some upside in this team. It's a matter of getting them correct. Ken Palm's projecting 152 points in this game. So there are going to be points scored. Just he projects Boston College will be pretty slow, 255th in the nation in pace. What are you seeing for Florida Atlantic at this point?
Yeah, I mean, they played pretty fast last year. I actually like the way the roster kind of came together. The big question mark, like you mentioned, is Moretti's health. He, from a percentage standpoint, he ran one of the highest percentages of pick and rolls in the entire country when he was out on the floor. I think if he does end up playing, like you said, Vanderpool, I think he scored 24 points in their scrimmage. Like, that moves him probably back to the bench. But I think Moretti playing opens things up, since he's such a good passer, for both Carlisle and Elohim to actually be a little more productive. Catching the ball in space from Moretti's playmaking ability. They're both pretty cheap in their scrimmage. They both looked like they were the two most aggressive in FAU. So I'll be for value, and like the way that the slate is looking, is that I think you have to play one of these guys, either Carlisle or Elohim, in your lineup at these price points. Carlisle, I think, is going to be the most aggressive offensively, but I think Elohim can like, just because of his size and athleticism, can put together some more peripherals maybe. But those are the two guys I'd be looking for. If Moretti is a full go, like 6,100 is, like you said, cheap for him too. He has 10 assist upside. So yeah, I'm a big fan of FAU. I'm probably going to bet them, especially if they're dogs against BC. I like the coach. I like the way they play. I think this team has some upside in the AAC.
Yeah, definitely intrigued by just how they're going to run their rotation. Some of the bench guys in that exhibition game looked pretty good. At least they were efficient in scoring. Maybe the matchup might not have been all that difficult, but like that Josiah Parker, their highest rated recruit ever, played 19 minutes, 10.7 boards. Amar Amcow, 17 points in 16 minutes. But yeah, like Elohim just seems like he's a guy that's probably going to contribute across the board in categories. Just took 5 shots in that game, which probably not a lot of shots to go around when Carlisle and Vanderpool combined for 27 of them to start out. But yeah, he's interesting because there's value in their price points. Xander Pintalone is the other guy that started. I don't really know much about him overall, but I mean, he was all right in 18 minutes, but just not somebody that would be a priority for me.
I'd rather go Devin Williams, I think, than him. Yeah.
Yeah, bet on the upside from
a
UCLA guy. So yeah, I mean, a lot of it could depend on Moretti, but I think Carlisle probably more efficient if Moretti's out there being able to run the offense a little bit more. Obviously,
it's probably the safest play is Carlisle.
Didn't watch the game or didn't see anything of it, but Carlisle leading them in assists in the game was 6. Kind of tells me that he's trying to run the offense, but also taking 14 shots. Probably not, especially because he's very different than what Moretti is, as a ball handler and just offensive threat. So, yeah, I think I probably have more interest in the team if Moretti plays. I'm going to play like Carlisle, like everybody else. We'll play some Vanderpool if Moretti's out, just based on shot volume in this spot. But it is a team that I'm going to want to pay attention to for future slates too. And that's one of the big things is even if we're not playing some guys on this opening slate, just paying attention to what some of these teams do, because a lot of these teams we are going to get again, generally in the near future, especially, if they're not major conference teams, we're probably still going to see them over the next couple weeks for various reasons. So, yeah, I think this game has a chance to be a little bit higher scoring than what Ken Palm has it at, and that's probably just thanks to FAU. It's definitely not going to be thanks to Boston College unless hands going off. But yeah, taking us a while to get to game 4 already, but this is one that we're going to be able to save some time on a little bit. Lehigh and Houston. I spent way too much time looking into Lehigh over the last couple of days for a team that's taking on Houston. But I guess the only thing that I can see is Nasir Whitlock projected to be their highest usage guy. Bart Torvik has them about 25% usage rate. And then Jalen Vasquez down there at min price led JUCO in assists last year, assists per game. So if there's anybody that I'd take a shot at, it might be with Jalen Vasquez. But yeah, am I missing something on Lehigh here that you noticed? Because obviously it's Houston. I pride myself on being able to find guys in matchups like this that nobody's going to play, but I don't see it in this spot.
Yeah, Jalen Vasquez is the only guy I had circled on the Lehigh side. He's going to start a point guard. Like you said, he has some impressive stats from the JUCO ranks. But at the same time, you're playing against Houston's aggressive trap where the point guard, their main purpose is getting the ball out of the point guard's hand. So I don't know if this is the best matchup for him. It's a very, very, very hard first time on the court in Division I going against the Houston defense for a point guard. So this could be a game where he has 8 turnovers. But he only needs 12 points to get to 4x. So being min price as a starting point guard, he's probably going to play majority of the game. It's worth taking a dart on him, but there's a high risk that he just gets absolutely swallowed by this Houston defense. And then you look on the Houston side, and they're 32-point favorites. All these guys are priced way too high. The only angle I would see on the Houston side, and I mentioned this before, is I do like to play bigs against these low major schools because I think they just destroy them on the boards and the glass. And JoJo Tugler is 7,200. He can easily have 12 points, 15 rebounds, 4 blocks. That's really the only guy I like in this game. You could go Uzan, but he's overpriced as well. But ball's going to be in his hands, and they're going to score a lot of points. But this could be. There's 10 minutes left in the second half, and Houston's playing their bench kind of game. So not the most exciting DFS And like you said, I don't think we have to spend too much time, but yeah, Vasquez and Tugler are really the only two guys I'm looking at in this matchup.
Yeah, I'm shocked to say that I do really like Tugler. Like, it's just somebody that I would have never thought I'd play at 7,200. From watching previously, their one exhibition game, it wasn't some blowout game. They only scored 61 points as a team. He took 14 shots. He took one fewer shot than Uzan and Sharp did. So if he's going to be utilized more offensively, then yeah, I think he ends up being underpriced at 7,200. Mentioned it to start up this breakdown. Like, C Knight Jr. is somebody that I wanted to play. I drafted him in our Dynasty League, like somebody I was pretty pumped about. But to see him priced the way he is, like, I just can't do it.
You can't play
he
him.
played 29 minutes in the exhibition game, but took 6 shots. He does strike me as basically what a Houston Big would look like at this point. And Houston Bigs they rack up fantasy points in a multitude of ways. Like, they don't have to score 25, 30 game points to go off. So that's the one nice thing. It's just like, I can't. I think I'd have to make 250 lineups before I'd slide one into my run, just because, like, from the offensive standpoint, like, Tugler, Uzan, and Sharp are just going to eat up so much of that usage, and Tugler's going to rack up so many rebounds, blocks, steals himself. CNAC out rebounded him in that exhibition game 9-7, but it's just impossible to pay that. Houston does have 2 other stud freshmen, and Harwell coming off the bench, can't play him at his price point. It's absolutely ridiculous. But Kingston Flemings does stand out to me a little bit. Started at point guard in the exhibition. He's a top 20, top 25 freshman coming in. Might be somebody that can just provide enough, at his price point for a team that has, a total in the mid 80s on this slate. So at 5,900, he's one of the few guys, in that 5K price range that I have interest in getting into a few builds. I think he's somebody that makes your build a little more unique because you're not truly going stars and scrubs because of this, near 6K price point. But often I find myself wanting to play the cheapest viable guy on a team that has such a strong team total. So, I still expect the freshmen to be out there for enough minutes, to get their feet wet and do everything. So I don't think a blowout would hurt him as much as, say, Uzan or like Sharp, especially because didn't Sharp deal with a bunch of ankle injuries last year? So, like, keeping those guys healthier, where I think, Flemings, Harwell, CNAC probably see some more minutes. But
and I think Raz Harwell is coming off a pretty big injury as well over last year. Yeah, the freshman.
Yeah, didn't he tear like his ACL or something in high school?
Yeah, I think it was his knee.
Yeah. I mean, so he played 15 minutes. Just took 2 shots in the exhibition game. Like, it might take him a little bit to get kind of going. He's somebody that probably could, be somewhat limited to maybe 15 to 18 minutes early on the season. That's certainly possible. Mercy Miller expected to be, a main part of the rotation, but does he offer a whole lot? Probably not on this slate, just because there are some mispriced guys. But he is 3,200. I just don't think we can, rely on that. He's somebody that people are going to play at some point this year because pricing is going to tighten, and he's going to be a viable value option at some point, but definitely not on this slate. But yeah, Jackson State, Illinois, an Illinois team that's super interesting. Again, we get a handful of teams. We get twin brothers joining forces, which makes me wonder what they're going to do from a rotation standpoint. I mean, Illinois has ran out, 2 quote unquote bigs together in the past. But I don't know that they play all that well together. But maybe they do, and I'm missing something. they have some other freshmen that are very talented, but then they also have like Stojakovic is injured, so he's doubtful, probably very close to being out. Like he hasn't done anything at all. Somebody that I just don't understand why he transferred to Illinois, but maybe that's my dynasty mind thinking because I do have him in our league as well. I should have just stayed at Cal and put up 25 shots every night. But yeah, Illinois is interesting to me just because like there's question marks in how they're going to do things. Boswell at 8,400 feels kind of aggressive, but maybe it's correct. I don't know. Yeah. But then like Petrovic just became eligible, a 22-year-old going to be eligible as a sophomore, playing professionally overseas. I mean, that's a whole nother debate with all the quote unquote professionals coming back to college or whatever. But then Merkovich looked really good in exhibition play because Tomislav missed the one game because he had his tonsils removed, and Merkovich looked really, really, really good. So I'm really curious to see what his role is. Keaton Wagler started as well. I haven't heard as much about him, but like from my understanding, the coaching staff really likes him and thinks that he's going to be a big part of their rotation. So what are you doing with Illinois in this spot?
Yeah, this is one of the more fun games, I think, on the slate, especially because like this Illinois offense, I think is going to be amazing, but I think they're going to struggle defensively, similar like they did last year. So like I think this is going to be a game where there's going to be just like a lot of points up and down. As far as the rotation, this team is super, super deep. But like you said, they're dealing with some injuries. Like Stojakovic, like you said, is probably not going to play. Petrovic, I think, also like along with being ineligible, like I think he's a little injured too. I read somewhere they only played a few minutes in their secret scrimmage against who'd they play? Florida. Against Florida in their secret scrimmage. I think he only played a few minutes. So like I don't know how much Petrovic is going to play either, which is going to lead to Boswell playing a lot. And like you said, like Merkovich is only 3,900 and he looked fantastic in their first scrimmage, and reports are that he played really well in their second scrimmage as well, even with Tomislav back. So like sitting there at 3,900, I think Merkovich is going to be really popular. But he's a very good value play, probably one of the better ones on the slate. And then with these injuries, Keaton Wagler, I think he played over 25 minutes in their scrimmage. He's going to have to be forced into that like 3 or 4 role. He looked pretty aggressive. I also read that I think he scored maybe 9 points in their first exhibition, but people were saying that he looked bad after scoring 9 points. So imagine what he looks like if he actually plays well. So I think the upside's there for Keaton Wagler as well at mid price. So that's someone else I'm looking at. And then again, Jackson State could get absolutely shredded at the rim in this matchup. So like even at 8,900, if Tomislav is playing 30 minutes, I mean, he can have 20 and 15 in this matchup as well with a couple blocks. So yeah, the risk here on the Illinois side is the rotation, right? Who knows what Underwood's going to do in a live game because there's so many guys that he can play and he has so much offensive talent on this team. But like moving on to the Jackson State side, like out of all of the high major versus low major matchups, like I think Illinois is the most susceptible to giving up a lot of fantasy points from their opposition. And we have our DFS legend, Deshaun Ruffin, sitting there at 5,700, who's probably going to take 20 shots in this game. Transfer from Ole Miss from a few years ago. And his favorite for Conference Player of the Year there at Jackson State and SWAC. And then also sophomore Dorian McMillan. He's sitting there at 4,000. He in their scrimmage had 23 points and I think 6 or 7 rebounds against Southern Miss in their scrimmage. So he's going to be their clear number 2 against a defense that's probably the softest out of all these high major teams. If you look at St. John's or Houston or Michigan or even UCLA, like Illinois is definitely the softest defense. So I'd rather play a low major guy in this matchup, like a Dorian McMillan, than somebody from Lehigh or Quinnipiac, I think. So I'm looking at Ruffin and McMillan pretty seriously, and then probably Merkovich on the Illinois side, and then maybe trying to choose between Boswell and Ivisic as it gets closer to Monday.
Yeah, I'm pretty similar to you. Ruffin is the one guy I didn't mention when we were talking about some of the 5K guys earlier. He's the one that I think probably ends up pretty chalky in this price range. But I'm fairly certain he's going to end up being a core play for me just because the usage is so massive. And like you mentioned, Illinois defensively, probably a lot of question marks, especially because of, just a lot of new parts that haven't had a lot of time to work together with Illinois, whether it be all transferring in or the injuries, that sort of thing, the eligibility issues. So I think there is going to be some growing pains. Illinois does have I guess Ken Palm has them projected for 93 points and blowing them out, I guess, but 65 points for Jackson State is probably good enough for Ruffin and McMillan to both go off. They combined for 48 points in their exhibition, where the rest of the team didn't really do all that much, from my understanding. There was no box score to it, so that makes it tougher. Two of the guys that started for Jackson State kind of could be interesting, and in the fact that Devin Reese started out at Louisville, 2 years at Louisiana Tech after it. But on the slate, I think there's enough value where you don't have to go there. But one guy that I did see some talking up about, a freshman, Kobe Butler, started for them. Is very interesting from what I got from Coach Mo Williams. And his son is actually on the team as well as a freshman 3-star guard, but not going to be somebody in play. But Kobe Butler is somebody that maybe if you wanted to dart throw another 3K guy and be a little different. But yeah, we really don't need to go super overweight on some of these smaller schools because we do have enough value in the guys we do know about for sure. That makes it tougher. Back to the Illinois side, yeah, Merkovich for sure, Wagler, and then Brandon Lee also looked really good in their exhibition. Played similar minutes to Wagler and some of the starters. 23 minutes. Put up 17 points in those 23 minutes. Wagler fouled out in 28 minutes. I don't know if he would have played much more because that was already second highest minutes for the team in that game. But yeah, if we find out that Petrovic might be limited, I think that opens up a few more minutes for Lee. And, at min price, you get a guy that puts up that many shots. He didn't really do a lot peripherally, so he basically has to be a scorer, but he at least looked the part. So maybe you add him into the pool, but yeah, it'd be tough to use him over Wagler based on the fact that Wagler started in that exhibition. And Merkovich, obviously. Zvonimir had a pretty strong exhibition game without his brother, but it's not somebody that I feel like you can trust, unless they roll out two bigs to start the game.
Yeah, or his price was maybe 5,000 instead of 7,000.
Yeah, he's priced
he's right by Tugler,
Right, he's priced basically like his random debut with Kentucky 2 years ago. Yeah, because he shouldn't be priced at 7K based on how he played last year at Arkansas. So, next,
I will say though, Raz, before we move on, you did mention that Jaden Bradley is one of the elite defenders that you try to stay away from. I do think Kylan Boswell falls under that same category. Illinois' defense last year wasn't great, but when Boswell was guarding the point guard, he usually locked them up pretty well. So that's one thing that kind of gets me a little nervous with Ruffin because Boswell's going to be in a shorts all game. So there's something to keep in mind as well. Yeah,
definitely something that could come into play there. For me, I'd probably give Ruffin a little bump just because he started out his college career in the SEC and
and was productive.
The massive usage. Yeah, I don't need him to be efficient. I just need him to get the shots.
Volume is way there.
I mean, if he goes 7 for 25, like, but then scores 20 game points because he gets the line too, and then contributes in some other stuff. Like, yeah, at 5,700, like, you give me that, I'll gladly take it.
Before he got injured, his freshman year at Ole Miss, like, he was one of their better players. Before he got injured,
the injury really set him back, and then all of a sudden he was gone to smaller schools. And I think he's somebody that probably could have a pretty strong year for them, or should have a pretty strong year. And like you mentioned, he is the preseason player of the year in the conference. Yeah. So, like, just massive. Bart Torvik only projects him for 26% of the usage. I bet it's closer to 30 than 26 when the season's done. But next matchup, Oakland and Michigan. Very interesting contrast in teams here. Oakland, not the same team from a few years ago. Each of the last couple of years, they've really slowed down their offense. And Ken Pom projects them to be, I have it written somewhere here, the 315th team in the nation in terms of pace. It's just a couple of years ago, they were in the low 100s. Some names that nobody probably going to click on because they don't seem intriguing in this matchup, but Michigan plays so fast. Like, I feel like we have to pay attention to some of the Oakland side. But the question is, where do we go?
Yeah. I have some thoughts on the Oakland side. Actually, I have some thoughts in general on this game. So to your point where Oakland's been slowing the pace down, I think it's a result of Greg Kampe just being a good coach, and molding his offense to his roster, right? So, like, when he has more athletes and thinks they can get out in transition, he'll play fast. If they think they're more of a half-court team, want to slow things down, stay behind their zone that he likes to play, they have better shooting, he'll slow things down. So I think it's more of a, how does the roster fit Kampe for him to kind of, change his style up. Michigan under Dusty May, like you said, is going to play fast. Against that Oakland zone, we've seen in the past Yaxel, when he was at UAB, absolutely destroy that two-lane zone. So, I think even at 9,500, like, he's the best play on the slate, the entire slate. He should be live for 26, 13, 6 assists, a couple blocks, a couple steals pretty easily in this matchup, I think. On the Oakland side, the big story here, so they just had a scrimmage. Their best player is their big guy, Buru. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, Navaloria, but he didn't play in their scrimmage. And in stepped in this JUCO transfer called Isaac, and his name is Isaac Garrett. Kind of versatile guy, he could step out. He scored 18 points, had 12 rebounds, and scored 5 assists, or had 5 assists in their scrimmage. He was their clear go-to guy. So, like, if Burrow is not going to play against Michigan, like, at min price, Isaac Garrett is the guy to go to, even against Michigan's, like, stout interior with Mara and Morris Johnson. Like, if he's going to play 25 minutes and have that type of usage, you have to play Garrett here at mid price. On the guard side, they brought in a point guard, Brody Robinson, who I think is going to have the ball in his hands majority of the time, from UTA. He's more of a shooter. But he did have a couple of games where he got close to 10 assists, or maybe even had over 10 assists. Against the zone, I don't know if I like him as much as a team that was playing man, or in the zone. I don't think like, he didn't have good defensive stats last year from UTA, but I think he can get hidden in the zone where he's probably going to play 30, 35 minutes for Oakland. And in a fast-paced game, he can rack up some stats with points and assists. So, like, at 4,100, Brody Robinson's probably the guy outside of Garrett I'm leaning towards. And then they have a sophomore, Warren Marshall, who dropped 20 in their exhibition, who looks like he's a guy that's more of just a scorer on the wing, where, they'll look for Brody Robinson to generate some offense, and he'll be the beneficiary of that on the wing, catch and shoot or driving to the lane. So he's only 3,500 too. So like those are the three guys I'm looking at on the Oakland side. And if this game's going to be high scoring, like all those guys are live to get higher than 4x, maybe 5x. But the best play in this matchup is Yaxel against that zone. I'm interested in a Day Mara too, especially if Borer is out, where he can, even if he plays 20, 25 minutes and splits with Morris Johnson, like his fantasy points per minute. And, I saw it against St. John's, like he can have a couple of really big games. This could be one of them against the zone and just grabbing a ton of offensive rebounds and putbacks. So like I have some interest in Mara. And then, when I watch them against St. John's, like a lot of the offense does flow through Elliot Cadeau. I think he's going to have a major bounce back year this year for Michigan, especially under the tutelage of Dusty May rather than Hubert Davis. He's going to be like in a much safer space in offense and not having to do too much, where I think it's going to translate well to his game. So I don't know if this is the right matchup against the zone, but Cadeau is going to be somebody that I think is going to average 7 or 8 assists a game. He can score. At 7,300, I think that's a pretty decent price point for him. I don't know if I'm going to play him this slate, but something to look for going forward. But I do like a couple of the Oakland pieces, especially if Burrow is out.
Yeah, I expect Tabiro to play. He actually played Thursday. They did have an exhibition Thursday.
Oh, he did?
Okay. Yeah. He played 30 minutes, took 19 shots in 30 minutes.
Did Garrett play?
Garrett did play along with him. 25 minutes, went for 11 and 7, fouled out in 25 minutes. But yeah, I mean, their starting lineup on Thursday with Tabiro back was basically what you would expect. The only guy that started in their first exhibition game that didn't start would be Nate Deere, who basically barely played on Thursday. Brody Robinson is definitely somebody I'm very interested in. He put up 19, 5, and 5 on Thursday in the exhibition with 3 steals. Pretty weak opponent that they barely, won in their exhibition, but still, he and Tabiro really stand out to me. Garrett does make sense. Warren Marshall did take 7 threes again, so in both exhibition games, he took 7 3 attempts. So he is somebody that's going to get up some shots, but he appears like somebody that probably isn't going to contribute a whole lot peripherally, especially if Tabiro is out there taking a ton of shots and doing a lot of things. Isaac Garrett did stand out to me initially. JUCO transfer, but he actually chose Oakland over Cal and Florida State, which blew my mind a little bit. But yeah, I mean, so he's somebody that stands out. The problem is like, I think he's going to have to be super efficient in what he does with Tabiro there.
It's a tough front court to go against too.
Well, right, yeah, the size with Michigan and the fact that they also have Morris Johnson too, like they can rotate them. There's some weird talks about playing all 3 together for Michigan, and like that would fail miserably in my mind. But there was
a couple of minutes that they did that against St. John's. It did not look good. Yeah. Like Yaxel standing at the 3-point line, like
Yeah. I'm with you, and then basically everybody else. Like, Axel should be the number 1 play on this slate. Should absolutely dominate against the zone, getting to the rim really. And I think that's where Cadeau could probably thrive here. If he can get into the zone, he's somebody that I think is live for double-digit assists in this game. Not a huge fan of him transferring away from UNC. I'm a UNC fan, but it made sense just because like he didn't kind of live up to expectations there. So that fresh start probably makes some sense. The problem with Michigan is outside of playing like Yaxel, Mara, maybe Morris Johnson, is like those other guards and Roddy Gale. I just don't think I can get to him. Like, I mean, he scored 18 points in the first exhibition game. The one you went to, he put up 11 points, took double-digit shots, but it's just not somebody I want to rely on Namari Burnett has been in college for 14 years. You can't convince me any otherwise. Like I was initially going to have some interest in Trey McKinney, but like LJ Kaysen has played more exhibition minutes than him, so like, he might not be ready right away. One guy that did stand out to me as a dart value play would be Will Shedder. He did start the first exhibition, but that was without Mara and without Morez Johnson, it looks like. But he still played 21 minutes in the second one, fell out in those 21 minutes, but he's not afraid to get threes up and then being against the zone. He's somebody that on the wing that, or in the corner might get some 3-point looks. And if he makes a few of them, it's not going to take much for him to pay off. And I don't think
he's active on the glass too.
He's not going to have a ton of ownership, so it's not somebody you have to be super heavy on. But mixing him in, I think he makes sense. Did put up 15 minutes in that first exhibition game, playing 15 points in 31 minutes. But obviously with all the bigs there, like he takes a hit potentially. Villanova, BYU. BYU team that a lot of people want to see how they work together. Obviously with AJ getting paid a ridiculous amount of money to go to BYU. How he fits in next to, like Richie Saunders, super interesting to me because Richie's really developed into a really strong offensive player. And then bringing in Robert Wright from Baylor, showed flashes with them, but then kind of faded. I don't think he was necessarily healthy the last half of the season last year, but also as teams got used to him and, maybe he ran out of steam too. He was very attacking when he first got out there and was explosive, and that kind of disappeared. I'm interested to just see what they do. I don't think BYU is going to be as deep this year as they have been in the past. I was trying to find some stuff out about like Dawson Baker. He missed both exhibition games, but like I don't have any updates. He has been practicing, but missing both exhibitions kind of stands out to me. There are a couple other guys that sat out too, but Baker's the one that kind of matters just because being an upperclassman, he could slide into the starting lineup over, Kendar Davis, maybe over Wright. There was some initial talk where they thought Wright was going to be the sixth man, but I feel like if you brought him in, like I think you just start him.
I think he got paid a lot too.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, Debanza looked obviously phenomenal in the first exhibition, went for 30 and 7, drew 7 fouls in 31 minutes. Drew 5 fouls in the second one, went for 18 and 8. So like he still looks the part. 8 blocks, steals combined in those 2 exhibition games. So, I mean, it's the price tag is really aggressive for a freshman. But obviously he has the hype. Is he somebody that you can get to?
Yeah, I think so. I think I'm going to try to fit him in as many lineups as I can. Just watching him in those exhibitions, like he looks like the real deal. Like he can get to his spot anywhere on the court. He's assertive, but not like forcing things. Like he looked way better than I thought he would. And he's just really, really smooth. And like you said, like he's probably going to play close to 35 minutes a game because of their lack of depth, right? I like Robert Wright a lot for him. I like Richie Saunders a lot for him, like because you can't help off Richie Saunders because he's such a good shooter. I think Richie Saunders this year with the Bansa on the team is going to turn more into a shooter than a pure scorer. So maybe we see his points per game go down a little bit, but maybe his 3-point attempts go up. I think he took 9 threes in each of the scrimmages. Richie Saunders.
He actually combined 19 3-point attempts in the
Yeah, which like I think they're both going to really help each other because the Bansa is going to force a lot of help and Richie Saunders is going to force a lot of space. So like I really like the roster construction here on the BYU side. I think it's the players complement each other really well. Kiba Keita is awesome inside as well. Like fantasy wise, I'm going to try as much as I can to get Yaxel and Debansa on teams if I can, if it makes sense with enough value out there. I like Kendar Davis if Dawson doesn't play. He was second team all conference last year at SIU. He looks aggressive when he's in there in the exhibitions. So 4,300 isn't a terrible price for him. And then if you think that BYU is going to run Nova out of the gym, you can get a little creative in Boscovich and Kadeem Bop, close to min price there if you think they're going to get 20 to 25 minutes each. Because, this team's only maybe 8 people deep. So they're going to have to play. So I really like the roster construction on the BYU side. I think they all really complement each other. And I think the Bansa is like live for Wooden Award. I think he's going to be the real deal all year. And like his peripherals are great as well. Like his numbers are going to rival like Cooper Flagg from last year, I think.
Yeah, shot the ball really well in the 2 exhibitions too. Like, so he probably is somebody that you just have to force taking in, into your builds quite a bit. Obviously, I definitely prefer Yaxel, but yeah, he does make sense. I mean, they have a team total projected about 80. It is actually projected by Ken Palm to be a pretty close game.
Yeah,
I just don't think Villanova is strong enough to keep it close, but maybe I'm missing something with Villanova. But yeah, I don't think I'm going to play right to start out the season. I kind of want to see him show it to me a little bit. The first exhibition game, he only played 16 minutes and went for 8 and 5. Second one, 32 minutes, but still just 12 and 5. He did draw 8 fouls on that one, but not very efficient scorer. And it's tough because you have DeBansa and then Saunders who's going to put up a bunch of shots. Wright was at his best with Baylor, being able to attack and get shots up in the rim. And I just don't know if there's going to be enough shots early on. But he is somebody to definitely pay attention to. Kennard Davis makes a lot of sense, but he's similar in that he's just going to be kind of a role player on the side. But at that price, I think there's enough upside. Kadeem Mboop is one guy that stood out to me. And any guy that, he's a redshirt freshman, so he was there last year. So he's not some new guy into the program. 17 minutes in the first exhibition game, 12 points, 11 boards. Super efficient, kind of slides in similar to what BYU big men have been the last couple of years. High in a per minute basis. Efficient, but they're not going to get a ton of usage. Second exhibition just played over 13 minutes, but still 7 points, 4 boards in those 13 minutes. So when he's out there, he has a chance to get there. So if they do what I would think they have a better chance to do than it being a super close game, there's probably a chance where he plays 17 minutes again. And if he does, he's already shown it in the exhibitions, double upside in 17 minutes. Min price is kind of worth a dart throw to me. That Villanova side, like I mentioned, I'm not seeing it the same way that the Ken Palm point projection is. Unless there's somebody that's going to magically show up that is going to score for Villanova. Caden Lewis is really talented. Took 12 and 15 shots in the 2 exhibitions, but it's still a freshman. Duke Brennan's not taking a bunch of shots. He's not dominating the interior. Matt Hodge, I don't know if he started one exhibition, but then came off the bench in the other because they started Gapiar, who basically doesn't do anything and only played 15 minutes anyways. Matt Hodge is a better offensive threat, so maybe, but he's not somebody that should dominate, especially going up against the Bansa. He's probably in some trouble. Tyler Perkins, I thought would play pretty well at Villanova last year when he transferred in, but he just kind of was a role player. I don't know that they expect him to just suddenly turn into a scorer again. One name that does stand out that I've seen a lot of people talk about, Malachi Palmer, started the second exhibition because who missed Bryce Lindsey. I haven't seen an update on what Lindsey's status is for sure. But I think he missed it just because of an illness. So I would expect he's back. But Malachi Palmer put up 17 shots in 35 minutes in that second exhibition. He put up 7 in 30 minutes of that first one too.
Yeah.
So talented. But like, does he need guys to still be out? Like Devin Askew is going to be out for a little while, from my understanding. And then obviously Lindsey missed, and then Zion Stanford is not likely to play, but I guess could be magically available. The update on October 16th was he was expected to miss 2 to 3 weeks. That would basically put us right now. So there's a chance, but even if he plays, is he super limited? And then is it, Malachi Palmer? I don't, aside from Malachi Palmer, I just don't know if there's anybody I really want to play on this Nova squad, because like Matt Hodge isn't exactly cheap, as a secondary offensive threat. So
yeah, it's a lot of risk, right? Because and it's a lot of injuries and seeing how they kind of fall on Monday. If we do get a lot of confirmations that guys are out, like this rotation is going to be pretty short. So maybe the upside's there, but like it's still going to be balanced. Like there's not one guy that can that I see having a ton of upside. Maybe a Caden Lewis, but like still his upside still seems like it's maybe high 20s in a fantasy points, like maybe 15, 5 and 5 with a steal. Like he's not like he's priced cheaply at all. He's like 6,500. I think there's definitely better routes to go. Like I'd rather play Krivas or JoJo Tugler, like somewhere around there, than a Caden Lewis against BYU. Zion Stanford, I actually like a lot. I like his game a lot. I think he can put up pretty decent fantasy points for this team if he's healthy. But even if he does play, like who knows if he's going to be limited. Matt Hodge is probably not going to play over 30 minutes. It's just not a lot to like. There's a lot of question marks. If Bryce Lindsey ends up playing, like I even don't know if I would play Malachi Palmer off the bench. Like he wasn't that productive at Maryland last year. And like I don't think his peripherals are really there either. He has to hit some shots. So yeah, he's not my favorite value play. I'm probably going to stay away from Nova. I actually think they get blown out in this game against BYU. I think the line's 7.5 now. BYU is starting the year KenPom 18th, which I think is very low. And then Nova's starting KenPom ranked 50th, which I think is too high for them. So yeah, I just not much to like Raz here on the Nova side.
Yeah, the KenPom 5-point difference just blows my mind, because I don't see it with Nova. Yeah, I mean Malachi Palmer, you're just playing at mid price just for volume, really. Yeah. Like if he gets hot, then even then when he took 17 shots in the second exhibition, he only put up 13 points. So he's not an efficient scorer with the volume either. So it's Caden Lewis is probably fine. If Bryce Lindsey starts, I think he's probably the one that I'd have the most interest in.
Yeah, if we get confirmation. Yeah, if we get confirmation, he's all right. 5,200 is a good price for him. He'll play 35 minutes. Yeah,
he can do multiple things out there, and he's going to take plenty of shots. So like he would be the one. The problem is like this is the second to last game on the slate. Are we going to have any of that news early enough for it to matter for us? I don't think we are, and that's the problem. So it probably does turn into a spot where you just avoid Villanova. I don't see anybody on their roster right now that at the end of the night you're going to go with, I wish I had played them because they just beat me, that sort of thing. So you should be able to make it up in other places.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, maybe
I totally agree.
Maybe we're both missing something because I don't see it.
It's just not a lot of upside, right? And that's what you're looking for. Yeah.
The one nice thing for me is Willard has really been willing to give his point guard, a lot of the work and like relying on the point guard a lot. So that's why maybe a Caden Lewis might have a little bit more upside. Yeah. But yeah, it just doesn't feel like somebody I want to, risk my night with,
Right.
a Villanova guy. We don't have an Eric Dixon who's going to take 30 shots on that team. But yeah, the last game on the slate, UCLA, Eastern Washington. Big news for Eastern Washington. They lose their best player before the season starts. Andrew Cook broke his ankle in practice. And it's not just a traditional broken ankle where you thought maybe he might come back this year. It's multiple fractures and multiple ligament issues. This is a guy that was a 6th year already, came from the NAIA world and worked his way up. But definitely leader on the team, but it's just a tough matchup, obviously, against UCLA. But Isaiah Moses now is thrust into a bigger role. Mm-hmm. So, is he viable at 6K? He might be, just from a volume standpoint, but I don't really want to trust on somebody like that against a team like UCLA, especially because at 6K, I'd already played Moretti. Fleming stands out, Ruffin for 300 fewer. There's just guys that make more sense. Alton Hamilton the 4th, a cheap guy, started their exhibition, went for 8-8 in 26 minutes, averaged 17-10 last year in the NAIA world. Obviously, big difference between NAIA and UCLA, but probably the guy that makes some sense if Eastern Washington can meet their. I guess Ken Palm has them projected at 62 points. I'd be willing to bet the under in that spot if you can get the team total at 62. Kyrie Huey, guys transferred from all over the place, was at Miami at one point. Just never really gotten it done. Emmett Marquardt is the only returner, I guess, from last year. Might slide into the starting lineup potentially, but yeah, we don't really want to spend all that much time on Eastern Washington. I did spend enough time in my research last night to learn that basically Isaiah Moses is a preseason all Big Sky guy, and he's going to have all sorts of usage available to him. But is that something that we can even rely on against UCLA?
Yeah, you're going against a Mick Cronin defense, which usually is pretty stout. UCLA has a ton of size this year. Like you said, the volume is going to be there, the usage is going to be there. But do I want to pay 6,000 when I can go to Ruffin, when I can go to Krivas, when I can go to Moretti if he's healthy? I don't know. I do like your call on Hamilton. I think he's a really good dart throw in GPP for sure. He has some size. He can grab some rebounds. He puts up some really good stats in the NIAA. And then they also have another NAIA transfer in Johnny Radford, who started in their scrimmage as well. He's min price as well. He scored 14 points per game in his previous stop and shot 42% from 3. So maybe this is a guy who can get hot and hit 4 or 5 threes at min price and starts, plays 25, 30 minutes. I don't hate that either. So Hamilton and Radford are really the only ones I'm looking at here. Maybe I'll have Moses on 1 GBP team, 2 GBP teams just in case as a late night hammer because of the usage. But, it's not a good matchup. UCLA is going to be pretty stout defensively this year under Mick Cronin. I do think there's some value pieces on UCLA side too, especially if Eric Daly is out. I haven't seen anything, but he didn't play in their scrimmages. I know he has a questionable tag.
The last I saw, he's more on the doubtful side to play than questionable. So I'm kind of expecting him to just not play in this one.
Yeah, so if he doesn't play, that opens up a lot of minutes for Michigan State transfer Xavier Booker, who has been, his performance has been up and down at Michigan, or Michigan State, I should say. But he came in as a highly touted recruit. When he's on the court, you can see he has the skills. He's a pretty efficient rebounder. He can step out and shoot the 3. He is pretty assertive on the offensive end. I think he had some decent stat lines in some of the exhibitions when he did get some minutes. So I'm looking at Xavier Booker there at 3,800. And then I'm also looking at Trent Perry at 3K, especially if this game gets into blowout territory. So I think the 2 guard spot and the 3 guard spot between Sky Clark, Jamar Brown, the Kansas City transfer, and then Trent Perry, who had a pretty productive season last year for UCLA as a freshman off the bench. I think it's going to be like a 3-man rotation for those 2 spots. So Perry should get 20 minutes, 22, 23 minutes, and he's pretty efficient, productive player. So at min price, like I do like Trent Perry here in this matchup too, if we're looking at some value. And then you also can make a case for Dent and Bilodeau. I mean, those guys are just super, super productive players. Donnie Dent has an upside of 20 and 10 every single night against this weak Eastern Washington team. It's definitely possible for him to get there. And like Bilodeau is really good too. He had 19 and 8 in their first scrimmage. Donnie Dent's gonna open up a lot more offense for him. I think he's not gonna have to score isolation in the post like he had to do last year. So like having a guard like Dent can make him a more efficient player as well. So I know they're priced up, but they're not the worst plays if you want to kind of be different as playing Dent and Bilodeau. They're both really good and could have good fantasy performances here.
Yeah, Bilodeau is one of those guys that I just generally don't get to just because like I don't really ever see him going off, but like Donovan Dent is somebody that I want to utilize quite a bit.
Yeah.
Obviously, like his New Mexico usage and everything isn't going to translate over necessarily. And I'll be honest, like this is one of those transfer portal moves that just didn't make sense to me right away. Like Donovan Dent just did not scream to me Mick Cronin guy.
Not many people do.
So like, but this offense needs somebody like that, right? Like to attack and just be aggressive. Like Donovan Dent's going to still be able to get his, especially in this matchup. Yeah, I'm definitely with you on Trent Perry. He's somebody that I wrote down right away. Definitely viable. Booker is one of those guys that a lot of people when this slate first dropped was pointed out right away that they were going to be super heavy on him. As a guy that had him in Dynasty and then traded him this offseason finally, like I don't know if there's been a more frustrating player for me than Xavier Booker. If there was, it'd be a previous MSU big in Sudoku. Just they bring in these highly rated bigs and they just jam them on the bench and play them 10, 12 minutes, and that's it. One exhibition game, Booker played 26 and a half minutes. The other one, he played 17. 17 one, he put up 14 and 6, but he also turned the ball over 6 times. He does that a couple times. Like Cronin's not going to leave him out there for very long, once the regular season's going. But there is ability. The problem is like the one exhibition game he played 26 and a half minutes, he took 2 shots. Like he's just never going to be a locked-in usage guy. The other one, I think, I didn't write down who they blew out, but they put up 94 points, and he took 11 shots in 17 minutes. So it's just a dominating performance. But I think I'm a little interested in Jamar Brown if Daly's out. Double-double in the last exhibition game in 28 minutes. He is a little more expensive than I would have liked to see, I guess. So maybe – I don't know. Maybe for me, it really just ends up being Dent or Trent Perry. I'm really tempted to fade Booker because of his popularity, from what my understanding, and the fact that I think it's more likely that he matches that first exhibition game than it is the second one. And if he puts up 5-4 with a block, like I can survive and be happy about that. So I don't know, like. It's tough for me to want to play UCLA guys anyways because we know how Cronin wants to play. They do have a 10-pound projection of 87 points, but he also projects them to be 346th in pace this season. So, and that's another reason why like Donovan Dent going to UCLA just didn't make sense to me because he's not the type of guard that wants to play at a 346th ranked pace. But yeah, I mean, him being under 9K just seems super intriguing, against a mid-major team. I would have thought he'd be one of the most expensive, one of the top 3 in price point before the slate actually posted. But So I do think there's some value there because there are going to be slates where he's going to be probably the low to mid 9Ks, as the season progresses. So, but that is it. An hour and 34 minutes into this, we're finally through the 8 games. A lot longer than I thought it was going to take us. But Mike, I appreciate you joining me. Can you tell people where to find you and get access to some of the things that you put out for everybody?
Yeah, of course. So all the guys and girls listening to this great show, you can find me on Twitter. I'm posting stuff all the time under Mike Kutry CBB. If you're interested in some more premium content and following my daily bets and picks, whether it's sides, totals, everybody likes player props. That's kind of my bread and butter. I've had a ton of success there. You can sign up and subscribe to my Dub Club. You can find that on the Dub Club site or in my profile on Twitter under Mike Kutry CBB as well. So I'm not hard to find. If you're interested in talking hoops, just DM me, reach out. I'm available. And, I'll be chatting with Raz and tilting all season. So Raz, thanks for having me again. I can talk about hoops with you for hours every day if you really wanted to. But good luck on the rest of the season, and best of luck in the DFS streets, with exception to the tournaments you're in when I'm in there too.
which will be plenty. But I think I'm passing on a lot of the bracket qualifiers because they changed the price points. I don't know if you saw my post about that, but yeah, I appreciate you joining. I will have a link to Mike's Twitter in the description for the show, so you can just head on over there. But yeah, I will have some content out for Monday over the weekend, and look forward to the season getting started. Again, thanks to Mike. Thanks to you guys for checking us out, and we're out.